How to get the job as a flight attendant. That's what y'all want to know. How to get the job as a flight attendant. Everybody loves to travel. That is everyone's answer, and it's very cliche. And quite frankly, the airline doesn't care if you like to travel. For the #1 airline in the United States, if that is the one you would like to work for, what are they going to ask me? Now, I will look this up for you guys because it has been a million years since I had to answer in the STAR method. I mean, there was this one time back when I had first started the job. Okay, let me try and think of what happened with that situation. You know, like, you want to know the situation.
Nani na na na, top girl from Atlanta. Nani na na na, Nani, you a star girl. You will have it all. Booking flights around the world. Na na na, na na na. Oh, Nani, you a star girl. You will have it all. Go ahead and show it off. Na na, Nani, Nani, na na na.
Hello? I heard flight attendant applications are out and everybody has questions. I got you. I got you. Y'all have been blowing me up. I was like, why not come on and answer some questions? Honestly, y'all haven't really heard from me. I do have another video that I've been waiting to put out. Y'all are not gonna forgive me if I put out another fall vlog before addressing the elephant in the room, which is switching airlines, and the second being answering y'all's questions on how to get past interviews. I want to explain this in 2 different parts. So I'm going to start with the part that I talked to y'all about before. If you've watched my videos, then you've heard me say I am trying for another airline and I wanted to go through a whole new flight attendant process. And yeah, that was kind of my plan for a whole new series on this channel. And I will say the only reason why you guys did not see it is because it fell through. I was planning on going through interviews with the Globe. I really wanted to go through a second flight attendant process. Obviously, I've gone into the flight attendant process. I've gone through virtual interviews. I've gone through face-to-face. I've gone through all these things with my specific airline. But I thought maybe it would be interesting to go through another interview process with another airline and apply like it was day one and go through the entire process with you. I did kind of start documenting that. I had a virtual interview with the Globe and I was super excited. I figured it was one of the big 3. I figured y'all would want to know a little bit more information about that process. So I was going to be going through the flight attendant process like I was starting over from day one to explain to y'all how to get the job as a flight attendant. That's what y'all want to know, how to get the job as a flight attendant. Because I don't remember a lot of my own process and it's a little bit, you know, hazy and a little bit of things forgotten. I was like, let's start over from day one. I wanted to go through this process with this new company. Super excited to go through that process. And I did my virtual interview. I did make it all the way to face-to-face interviews, guys. I did. The problem was I recorded my virtual interview video and I thought that I deleted old videos off of my SD card and that video was included in the videos I deleted and I could not recover it. So I had done an entire virtual interview with one of the big 3 and I want to show y'all like how I answered my interview questions, how I did my interview, and the entire video was gone. The entire video was gone. And that kind of made me discouraged, and I'll be honest, it's why I completely wrapped my flight attendant series that I was gonna do. And I feel like it's really frustrating because I've been talking about probably since year 2 about doing a flight attendant series, breaking down every single part of the process. And I know y'all are sick of me. Y'all are sick of me, and it's fine. I'm sick of me too. I wanted to finally give that to y'all. It is the end of the year, which if you know anything about flight attendant interviews, specifically for my company, if you're applying for my company, if you know, you know, I really wish people would stop asking me because I will never answer it directly, but I'm a bisque off, y'all. I feel like most people do know who I work for, but if you don't know, it'll just stay a mystery. I do that because, y'all, I am not a representative of my company. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Anything you see in my flight attendant series videos where I address anything in regards to being a flight attendant is my personal experience, my personal opinion, and how I personally feel about the job. It is not a reflection of the company. It is not a reflection of the flight attendant process as a whole, because when I say something, it could be as simple as do not wear a neon dress to your interview. And someone will be like, I wore a neon dress to my interview and I got the job. Everyone is an exception. And that's why I don't want it to be like I'm the flight attendant spokesperson, which is why I limit my flight attendant content, even though that's what y'all would love to see. It just makes it very, very complicated, and I don't want to complicate my job any more than I have to. You know, I really wanted to give y'all this process. I really wanted to come and explain, because I never ever cleared up me switching to another airline. It was not me leaving my current airline, but more wanting to try a process with another company and see how it was being a flight attendant from the very beginning and being able to explain the process to you guys. But I'm gonna do it anyway. I did get the entire process of trying to become a flight attendant, so I wanted to start from ground zero. Do I know that ground zero is your resume? I do. But I want to address this video first with the virtual, because I feel like a lot of people who are messaging me right now are in the process between virtual interviews and face-to-face. So I figure the first two videos I'm going to upload in this series are going to be those two: virtual interviews and face-to-face. This video will be about virtual interviews, and we're going to get right into it. I'm not going to keep on rambling. I just wanted to address the large elephant of, like, was I leaving my airline? Other thing that I was talking about was switching into something completely different in regards to airline travel, which was, guys, my interest in becoming a private jet flight attendant. It is still something that is very, very, very high on my list. 4 years flying. There's just so much that I want to talk to you guys about, and I'm finally going to be doing that. When this year is up, baby, I would have answered every question that I possibly could answer, and I'm going to give y'all a Q&A. So if you have any questions, I want you to comment on every single flight attendant video that I upload, and any questions that I've not answered on any previous video. Please watch all of my other videos on my flight attendant series. If I've not yet answered the question, it will be answered by the end of the series. I hope that helps. I'm just so excited to give you guys the information. If you know anything about this time of the year, normally they start sending out applications for every company that is like a flight attendant airline. They normally start hiring summer, going to the end of summer, and then the entire hiring process is from like August all the way to January, and people start going to actual training and such. So this video is going to be about the virtual interview process. I do feel like I've answered questions in regards to the virtual interview process, so please do check out my previous videos, but I do want to start with saying, obviously, I just went through another virtual interview. I also made it past that virtual interview. If you don't know anything about a virtual interview, it is when you first submit that application, you end up applying to become a flight attendant. Normally, the first thing that you get from your airline is going to be an assessment. We all know, whether you are working at a job at Kroger, or you're working for an airline, or you're working for a major company, most jobs for some reason start with some sort of assessment, and it's a personality test. It's simply a personality test. If you know anything about personality tests, it is to see how you are going to handle situations. I know that people do lie on the personality test, but I will say, I don't think it's beneficial to lie. Answer the questions as you would. I know that a lot of people want to say the perfect answer because, if I get the perfect answer, I'll end up at the interview. But these personality questions are seeing if you will be a good fit for the job. If you do not make it past the personality assessment, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not meant to be a flight attendant. It means that you might end up having some challenges, or the way that your delivery might be on some of the questions may not work. You can take that. You may want to apply again and change your answers and maybe make it sound like you're a little bit sweeter. But I will say, when you're on that plane and you're in the actual job role, you will need kind of these like key things to make interactions not be bad. I say answer the personality questions as you feel fit. And if you are a fit, you are a fit. If you are not, you're not. I just can't tell you how to take a personality test. It is your own personality. But the very next thing that you get after you get your personality assessment and you pass that is your virtual interview. Your virtual interview is the very first time the company is getting to see your face. It is not in front of a person. The way that it works is more of a question and answer situation, but you are by yourself. I feel like it was very easy for me answering my virtual interview questions because I am the type of person that sits in front of a camera, and I have no issue looking directly at you guys and answering questions and feeling comfortable in front of the camera. But if you are not used to that, it can be very, very awkward. It can be very, very awkward. Honestly, the easiest way to get comfortable and kind of get yourself in the groove of answering those virtual interview questions is to sit in front of a camera. Before you even go on to click and try and do it yourself, get comfortable with answering questions on camera. Because if you get on the camera and you're looking awkward, it's not to say that you won't get it, but it will make you just seem uncomfortable. And you have to realize this is a job where you are going to be in front of new people. You are going to be put in uncomfortable situations. It is going to be something new to you. So you want to seem comfortable on camera. You want to seem cool, calm, collected, and, vibing, and not necessarily looking like, oh my God, this is very awkward and uncomfortable for me. But if you're not used to that, you can open your MacBook, open your PC, whatever computer you have, open your webcam, and practice answering questions that are interview based, looking at a lens. Now, I know some people will look at the screen. That's what most people will do when answering these type of questions. But you have to realize when the person is viewing it, they're viewing it as like you guys are viewing this. I'm looking at you guys. I'm answering the questions. That is how the interview person is looking at you. If you are recording your virtual interview questions and you look at yourself as you answer the questions, one, it feels very, very awkward because you're looking at yourself, and then you're gonna overthink and overprocess how your face looks, how your makeup looks. You might get distracted. I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna look down at my screen, and normally your first interview question is a slate. This is what it would look like if I was looking at my screen while answering that question. Hi, my name is 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐼. I am 31 years old and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, that is slating looking at myself, which I think cool. Like, I'm thinking about like, oh, my makeup looks good. I'm looking good. I answered that question well. If I want to look at them and I want them to see my face and make it seem like I'm looking and talking to them, looking in the lens. Hi, my name is Nani. I am 31 years old and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. This is something also that is a slate if you do like reality TV, if you were an actor. That is kind of a thing that you always will have to do, is look directly into the camera and answer questions. I answer all of my virtual interview questions looking at the camera. I never look at myself. I'm never looking down here. It is nice. I feel like it feels a little bit more comfortable sometimes just to like see what you look like to answer a question. But when you're talking to someone, you want to look them in their eyes. It is the same when answering these questions, because the interviewer will be replaying these videos because they are pre-recorded, and they will be looking at you directly in the eyes. If you look here, if you look down here, they will not be looking you directly in the eye. So that is something that I like to do when doing my virtual interview questions. A lot of people ask me the format of these virtual interview questions. You pull up whatever website or link they send you, and as soon as you open it, it will give you explanation of how the virtual interview works. How the virtual interview works is normally it's gonna say, hey, we're gonna ask you a question. You're gonna click record, and it's gonna instantly record. You will get a chance to view yourself. At least the two that I did, you were able to review exactly what you said, and you could redo it, I believe, once. With both airlines that I have done a virtual interview for, it was timed. So you don't have unlimited time to answer the question. One, they don't want you to drag on. The answer needs to be clear and concise to the question that they're asking, while also giving a little bit of detail. I will say that when I did my virtual interview with my airline, I did answer in the STAR method. I will get into the STAR method later in this video. But when I did do my interview with the Globe, which was the one that I recently did, I did also get past that interview. I did not answer my questions in STAR method. I think I did half it a little bit because I obviously have an airline. I was not interested in switching airlines, but it was nice to kind of see how it was just answering. I feel like if you do have previous flight attendant experience, you may have no problem answering these type of questions, because a lot of them are giving examples of situations that you've done something that would work for the company that you're working for. For example, the question might be, what is the time that you dealt with a difficult customer and how was it resolved? Obviously, the best way to answer that is in the STAR method. I do recommend the STAR method, but I do also feel like for a beginner, I don't necessarily feel like it's required for the virtual interview. Increasing your chances, the most you would answer in the STAR method. But I feel like for someone who is new to the industry, a lot of people don't know what the STAR method is. A lot of people might not know how to answer these type of questions. And in that method where it would work, I do say for the #1 airline in the United States, if that is the one you would like to work for, you will have to answer those questions in STAR method in your face-to-face interview. I don't think it's necessarily required for your virtual. I do think it is a good recommendation, but I don't think it's a required thing. Okay. It's a lot of experience-based questions. If you do not have a lot of flight attendant experience, or you don't have any flight attendant experience, I feel like the best way to answer the question is to focus on customers and the customer ending up happy in the long run. So if you have you may work at a donut shop or like a coffee shop, and you may be like, oh, this was the time that a person got real mad. They threw their coffee down. It may not be something that's super dramatic and crazy like that, but just the time that someone was upset, how you specifically resolved it, and how it ended, and was the person satisfied, and whatever. What it gives is an example to the company. Hey, when I work for you, I'm going to be a problem solver. I'm going to be a person who is able to help. I'm going to be a person that is going to be beneficial to your company. And that's a good way to look at all of the questions. A lot of people go into these flight attendant interviews saying, I want to fly because I love to travel. I personally don't think that is the right answer at all, because everybody loves to travel. That is everyone's answer, and it's very cliche. And quite frankly, the airline doesn't care if you like to travel. They want someone who benefits them. You loving to travel does not benefit them. What is a benefit to them is someone who is able to handle themselves, and they don't necessarily have to worry about. As a flight attendant, you are a contractor. You are by yourself. You are like individually your own person. We don't really have managers. We do, but we don't. It's very limited interaction, unless it's, something significant most of the time, or just like a check-in, seeing how you're doing. We are very much our own people. How you and your success in the company is based on you. So you don't want to seem like a person who is not going to be able to do it on their own. And I think they're looking for people who are not only independent, but good team players, and people who are beneficial to their company. When you're answering the questions, you need to be a benefit to the company. And I feel like that's the biggest thing, because I feel like people get a little lost in the sauce sometimes, and they answer the interview questions to be like, I really want this because I really want this. But for any company that you're interviewing for, it's how you're a benefit to their company, not you want it because you want it. Like, you could want to be the CEO of Coca-Cola, but how are you going to benefit the brand of Coke into being like a CEO and making the company better? Like, that's what they want to hear. Not like, I love Coke and I've loved Coke my whole life, so I want to work for Coca-Cola, because most people don't care. I would say that's a really good way of going into answering the questions. And then as far as the look goes, I have done flight attendant videos in regards to the flight attendant look. I feel like I've heard like hit or miss with things that I've said in regards to like the look in your flight attendant interviews. But I will say, I'm always going to say slick your hair back. If you have super long hair, I would not go super glamorous hair, because they don't care about that. Like, a lot of these companies, like, a uniform is a uniform because they want everyone to look uniform, which means everyone looks the same. You don't necessarily want to stand out. I know some people are like, oh, everyone's going to wear a black suit. I'm going to wear a royal blue suit because it's going to make me stand out. I personally don't think that's the way to go, because it means that you're not trying to be a team player. You're trying to more so like get attention, and it's like, that's not what it's about. Again, I have had people tell me, oh, well, I wore a red dress to my interview and I got it. That's great. There's always an exception. But I feel like when you're going into it, especially for my company, we ended up getting a paper that said the colors that we were supposed to wear and that were recommended, and colors that were not recommended. And some people went out of that, but I did feel like when I was in my final sit down and we got past everything and I got the job and we're like doing all our paperwork for the people that were chosen the day of their face-to-face, we all looked the same. We were pretty much all in blazers and button-ups and hair slicked back and small earrings and just classy, conservative, plain. I know it seems like it is a time to like show your personality and show all these things. It is, but keep it simple. Let them see your face. Let them see how pretty you are. Keep your makeup natural. I would even say like my makeup now is pretty, but this is even a little bit excessive from what I would wear. I would probably keep it a little bit plain face, or even like a red lip, maybe a little less dark on the eyes. I would not come with a smoky eye or anything crazy like that. I don't touch too much on looks because people get very, very sensitive about it, but that is just my recommendation. If you've seen my videos in regards to the flight attendant look, I would say follow those because that is just my recommendation, but ultimately it is your choice. And then also joining a lot of these like Facebook groups. A lot of times if you want to work for a company, you could literally go on Facebook and type in company, and you could type in interviews or applicants or something, and you will end up in a Facebook group full of people with advice, full of people who even just got the job and stuff like that. And that's a lot of what I did in the beginning. And it was nice because then you meet friends, and like I had people who got hired like shortly before me. So we're just weeks apart, and they were able to like tell me like, hey, this is what, you know, to expect, you know, in a couple weeks. I feel like those things were very, very beneficial. And going back to these actual virtual interview questions, because people ask me all the time, what are they going to ask me in this virtual interview? The virtual interview, like I said, the first one is a recorded interview. You are pretty much viewing a question. It will give you 30 seconds. You will click record, you will answer, you will press stop, and then you will be able to review what you said. This is just going to be submitted to the company, and they will be able to see you answer these questions and decide, do we want this person to be a part of the next set of interviews or do we not? Very, very simple. The second interview to that, in both cases with me, were another virtual interview. The second virtual interview is a almost exact same format, except it is not time sensitive, and you are sitting actually looking at a person and you're answering very similar questions. Answering the questions, except you're looking at an actual interviewer. They're getting to see your personality live. They're getting to see how you look live. And the virtual interviews are pretty much the same. The only difference is you will have someone to actually bounce back off of on the second set of interviews. But the layout and format is the same. How you look should be the same. How you answer the question should be the same. Someone asked me in my comments if they should dress like nice for their virtual interview. Yes, it is still an interview. Even if it's just the one where you press record, they are still looking at you. There is still a manager or a hiring person on the other end of that video watching those pre-recorded videos for a job. It is not to answer in a t-shirt. It is not like, hey, let me get this out as fast as possible. You want to be sitting in good lighting. That's another thing. If you don't have actual light, I recommend a clean background, either a blank wall like this or just like your living room, but not where it's like messy, not where your dogs are walking in the back, not where people are walking in the back. There should be no TV, no music, no nothing in the background. It should just be them hearing you so they are paying attention to you. Because if you're answering a question and your dog is running in the background, I promise you they're not listening to anything that you're saying. They're looking and probably gonna talk to someone about like, there was a dog running in the back. You know, it's very hard to focus on. So if you give them one thing to focus on, the focus will be on you. Sitting in good lighting, meaning in front of some sort of light source. If you don't have a light source, not necessarily a lamp because you don't want anything like really bright yellow and crazy, I recommend sitting in front of a lit window. Now, a lot of these interviews, they will tell you that in the instructions of how you want to look, what kind of background you have, and all those things. A lot of these details are given, but these are kind of like just my basics on the interview. And then the last thing is the questions. The questions. I get this question the most of what are they going to ask me? Now, this is about to be super repetitive because I'm going to say it in this video in regards to virtual interviews, but on the very next video, which is going to be my face-to-face video, I will answer all of the questions that you have in regards to that. But what are the questions that they ask you in the virtual interview, and what are the questions they ask you in your face-to-face? The answer is you go on to Glassdoor. This is like my number one recommendation other than the Facebook groups that you can find in regards to whatever company you're going to be working for, and information you can get there is going on Glassdoor. It is not sponsored. Glassdoor is for every company. Before I wanted to be a flight attendant, I still looked up the company that I wanted to work for, Glassdoor, and their interview questions. It will show you even down to the position that you were going to work for, the questions that they will ask. You literally go on Glassdoor, shows the company, shows how many people work for them, shows the CEO, shows the job, shows the benefits. People are rating actual employees, who did and did not get the job, or telling you, these are things that they told me they offer and don't offer. These are the questions they asked me in my interview and I didn't get the job. These are the questions that I was asked and I did get the job. And there's just a lot of information on Glassdoor, no matter what company you want to work for. So even if you don't want to be a flight attendant, I recommend this for any job. I've used it for every job as an adult to get through my interview process. There's like an interview tab or questions tab, and you will change that specifically position for a flight attendant. When you do that, you will start getting a bunch of questions for whatever airline that you would like to work for, of the interview questions that they ask. When I did this I did not do this for the second set of interviews that I just did for the Globe. I told you guys that was just like a one-off in me wanting to do the process with you guys. But when I did this for the company that I work for right now, I will say I did not get a question that was a shock. I did not get one question that I did not see on Glassdoor. And of course, over the years, it changes. I've explained my flight attendant experience, my training experience, and then I've had people comment and they're like, oh, they don't do that anymore. You don't get a roommate survey. You don't get like these certain things. And it was different. But it's always up to date on Glassdoor, because these are people that just interviewed last week and those are the questions they were asked. These are people that was just uploading questions a month ago. They got hired and this is the question they were asked. I did not do one. I didn't do one for my interviews just because I was too busy at the time, but a lot of people do. And a lot of people who don't get the job will tell you like, oh, I feel like they were rude because of this, or I feel like they were kind of like whatever. And people may be giving out their grievances, but it's also giving you a peek into, hey, what might this person have done that, didn't get them the job. Or like, honestly, a lot of times if they're complaining and like leaving a bad review and being nasty, it probably wasn't a match. It probably wasn't a match, because I swear if you left a review or a bad comment for every bad experience you had as a flight attendant, you wouldn't have the job. I think that's the most I can tell you really in regards to answering those questions. And the last is going to be the STAR method. Now, I will look this up for you guys because it has been a million years since I had to answer in the STAR method. The STAR method is not just down to flight attendant interviews. It is just a method of question answering that is highly looked and sought after in regards to flight attendants. So it says a STAR method is a technique for answering behavioral interview questions by structuring a response with a specific situation, task, action, and result. This method helps you tell compelling, structured stories that highlight your skills and experience to an interviewer. I don't think on your virtual interviews, like I said, I think for your second virtual interview where you're looking at a actual interviewer, it's very important to answer it in STAR method anytime that you are in front of a person. But I feel like for that first interview, it's not necessarily required. You can answer it like that, but you don't have a lot of time in 30 seconds, which it's like a very short time to answer the question, to answer in STAR method. You don't want your STAR method also to be really long and I'm telling a story for 2 minutes. It still should be short, but I don't think it's necessarily required for that first virtual interview where you're recording yourself. I feel like that's not super important because again, you have short time. This is just them getting to know you. And a person who is just applying doesn't even know this, but by the time you're looking at someone or you're doing your face-to-face, they do expect you to know this is the way to answer questions. So I will go through the STAR method. So the S, situation. Introduce the situation to the employer and set the context. I'll use the same question that I said before. Name a time that a customer was upset. So introduce the situation to the employer and set the context. The first time that I had a customer be upset, I was on the plane and they were upset about someone else being in their seat. One sentence, answering the situation and introducing it to them. T in STAR stands for task. Describe the task that you had to complete, including the explanations and challenges it would involve. So I'm going to put the S and the T together now, putting those together. Situation, I have a customer who has someone spilling over into their seat and they're unhappy about it. I know that I would need to make that person feel comfortable and like they were heard in regards to being upset, and also be very sensitive to the person who is causing that issue for them so I don't make them feel uncomfortable. I have a task. I have a thing that I have to fix in regards to the situation that was the issue. Then the next thing is A, which is action. Explain what you did and how you did it. Now I'm gonna put together S, T, and A. So I have a customer who is sitting and they feel uncomfortable with someone spilling into their seat. I knew the thing that I would have to do is make sure that they felt comfortable and heard about feeling so uncomfortable with the person spilling in their seat, but also make the person who is spilling into their seat not feel uncomfortable due to this issue. I went ahead and I took the person away. I spoke to them about the things that were making them uncomfortable and seeing how I could accommodate them. I was able to find an open seat. I moved them to that open seat. I went back to the original person, asked if they were okay, and asked if they wanted to move into the other seat as they would have a little bit more room. That's A. So we have A. R in star is results. End with the results of your efforts, including accomplishments, rewards, and impact. Okay, so putting the STAR method together, I had a customer who was upset about someone spilling over into their seat. I knew I needed to make them feel heard and feel cared for, so they were not uncomfortable for their flight, but also make sure the person that they were complaining about was not upset and made uncomfortable either. I went ahead and I took that person aside. I spoke to them about the things that they were uncomfortable about, and I got them another seat and moved them. And then I asked the other person if they were okay. If they wanted to move over, there was additional room now for them to scoot over as well. The result was the person was able to move and they were comfortable in the flight and everyone was comfortable and okay. Easy way of answering the STAR method. Very short and sweet. It is a little bit of a task, I feel, like I said, in a virtual interview because it can be very fast on that recorded interview. But when you're talking to a person, you're not on a time limit. You don't have to speed through. You can go through all of these things and be like, okay, what's the situation? Most times, more times than not, you want to have a situation in mind, which is why I say to go and read those Glassdoor interview questions, because it can not necessarily make you study because you don't want to answer questions like a robot, like, oh, I already knew that I was going to have the answer to this question. You want it to be genuine, but you also don't want to end up stuck where they ask you, what's the time where you helped a customer and they were happy with the result? And you're like, when was a time that a customer was happy? I can't really remember. I'm sorry, I'm put on the spot right now. I mean, there was this one time back when I had first started the job. Okay, let me try and think of what happened with that situation. You know, like, you want to know the situation. So at least if you go through the interview questions, you'll have an idea of like, when was a time that, you know, a customer was really mad and I fixed it? Or when was a time I had a conflict with my coworker and it ended up resolved? Or when was a time that someone else was having a conflict and I resolved it for them? When was a time that I felt the most accomplished with my job? I don't know, any situation, you want to have at least one thought on your mind of like, this was a situation that happened, so you can use the STAR method for it. Again, for my company, the STAR method was extremely, extremely important in face-to-face interviews. I will get into that again and we'll repeat it again when I address face-to-face interviews. But that's pretty much everything I have for the virtual interviews. You guys have asked me so many questions in regards to virtual interviews. I don't think I ever, when I first went through my interview process, ever addressed virtual interviews. So I do apologize. But if there is any questions that you have for me down in the bottom in regards to virtual interviews, comment them down below. I will be answering anytime anybody asks me a question in regards to any of my flight attendant videos, you know, or you DM'd me, I answer everything. The only thing that I don't answer is what airline I work for.
Small world with big dreams, bad girl with big things. Nani, you the drip queen. Elevator a big deal. Nani na na na, top girl from Atlanta. Nani na na na.